it's you know, when you first get here, I remember when you first start, and I know they think the same thing. The guys that really want to be linemen are linemen at heart. You know, I think you can have a lineman position and not necessarily be a lineman. You know what I mean? A true lineman is a lineman at heart. They know they're a lineman. That's all they want to do. You know, if they told me next week they were going to pay twice as much to ride on the back of the garbage truck, I wouldn't take the job just because it's not what I do. But there are people that would do that. They're not linemen at heart, you know, and a lot of that's because when you come to work here and then you see somebody go up and they all of a sudden grab primary, they pick it up and move, and you're like, oh, dude, they can touch that, you know, and you realize what you can do with the power lines and how much work you can do with them energized and what you can accomplish. And then so once you get an opportunity to get in the bucket and become apprentice and you are able to start doing some of these tasks, it's like, man, you hit down, it's almost like you hit a home run in a baseball game.
The hard part is there's only, in our whole department, as far as line workers go, we have a total of 50 people. Of those, 25 are qualified to work in the bucket. In our whole community, there's 25 people that can do this job. When that phone rings, if I choose not to, then that means that we have just cut out 4% of the workforce. And how many of us can afford to do that?
Well, you got to be a strong-willed individual, and you know, a lot of people's got this impression of linemen. Everybody's standing on the ground looking up with their arms crossed while one guy's up there in the bucket working. But what the majority of them don't realize is those guys on the ground with their arms crossed, they just got finished busting their butt to get that guy in the bucket working. And they're actually watching him and trying to keep him safe from stuff that he can't see that's above his head, and maybe that's beneath him or where his boom angle is according to traffic or other lines in the area. They're watching out for that guy in the bucket. But you get to see a lot of really interesting stuff when you're doing that. And you know, I've sat in a truck with tornadoes passing and having the truck sitting there shaking, and as soon as it goes through, you're out there on the line. It takes somebody crazy to do this job. I enjoy it. It's, you go out there and say the wind's blowing 60, 70 miles an hour and you're working in between bands of the storms to keep people's lights back on, and you'll get their lights on and you'll go to another call and you won't even make it there, and they'll be calling back in saying, my fire's done went out again. But there's just, you keep on trying to get everybody's lights on until you can't do it anymore.
You know, when we get hit by a bad storm, which 2 years ago we had, I believe it was like 3 storms where we worked like 2-3 days to restore power. And you know, I've been out living in Anthony. When my power goes out from the hurricanes, it's 3 weeks, 4 weeks before it comes back on. So it's pretty nice whenever you get out there to that tap and throw the fuse in and them lights come on and everyone comes outside, you know, and thank you, thank you, thank you. And you know, they're bringing you water, they're showing their appreciation, and it feels good.
That phone call 2 in the morning, getting motivated to get up. You know, sometimes that's kind of tough. Or it's 95 degrees out and you're out there working with these fire resistant shirts on, and that's a little bit tough. But like I said, it's your job. It is rewarding to get things done, get the power back on.
You don't, this time of year, you really don't have a life. This year ain't been real bad, but I mean, there's been years where I've been in Crystal River, Homosassa, Daytona fishing, up north, and you know, probably 2 hours away, and get the call like, hey, you know, we got hit bad. We need some people to come in and work. So you just pack your stuff up and drive home and come work all night. You know, same thing with Christmas, Thanksgiving, all your holidays. You be hanging out with the family. Next thing you know, like, hey, we need someone to come in. So I mean, it just, you gotta sometimes give up what you're doing to, you know. I mean, this is our life. This is what we do.
The biggest challenges, I think, for us is being out of, you know, there's sometimes where you spend time with your family. There's Christmases, birthdays, holidays, you're not home. You're here working. You know, I think that's the biggest challenge. You know, just being away from the family all the time.
Being away from family is probably my biggest hardship in this job, especially having to leave them during a storm. You know, wind's blowing, whatnot, and you're packing up and leaving the house, and the wife and kids, they don't really like that a whole lot.
Yeah.
But you want to save the day for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember I missed my oldest boy's first home run in high school. That was a little bit tough. And I'd laugh because sometimes that phone would ring if we were going somewhere. I could hear him say, "Don't answer, don't answer." Yep. But I got a call one time at the house. I remember my youngest was still pretty little. I didn't actually have to go in. They just wanted to ask me a question about a problem we had not far from my house. And it was raining. And I said, "Well, I'll run out there real quick." I wasn't going to work. I was just going to be over there where the guys were. So I took Tyler with me. And it was raining. We kind of looked the job over, tried it one time. The fuse blew. We found the problem. Got to see a little fire. We were driving home. And Tyler says, "Dad, you got the coolest job." I said, "How's that?" "Well, you get to work in the rain, drive big trucks, and make fire."
I've got a 17-year-old daughter and I've got a 14-year-old son.
Okay.
And they know exactly, you know, they've come up with it from day one that I do miss. And they know if the calls and everything's bad, I got to go. They understand. I mean, my wife's very understanding about it. But she knew when I was going into it because I dated her in high school and I come to work here and I went to Hurricane Andrew right out of the gate. Was gone for 2 weeks, and when I come home, I actually got engaged.
When you look over and you have that exchange, you have that moment. If she doesn't go, "Yeah, go, I know," that makes it hard. And now you have a decision to make. My community, my family, and so it's really important that the family as a group understand what that means. And then the other side of it is as a company, we have to recognize that also.
I would say that growing up in the household, you knew that your job came first because our community came first, and that's what was important. And today, it rubs off on me. When the phone rings, I'm going to answer it.
My daughters know when the lights go out, there's only so many people in this town that can put it back on, you know, and the customers that pay all this money for their electric bills, and let's face it, they're not cheap, they depend on somebody to turn them back on. And you can't have enough people staffed throughout the day or at night or whatever to handle these storms. You can't do it and be cost effective. It requires people answering their phones saying, "I'm willing to leave my family and go do this." And that's part of the job.
I mean, it's really big to do safety because the problem is today is everything's moving so quick. Before, like I said, when I come up, you at least had about 3 to 4 years as a groundman. Now you're going straight into a pre-apprenticeship program, which we're spending a lot of time on that. And what they do now is they have tasks they got to complete within 6 months, and that's going through learning their job and following all the safety rules. And so safety is a big factor, and we push it really hard.
Well, I mean, you got to have that trust because, you know, at the end of the day, everybody's human and makes mistakes. We got a lot of safety rules and things to do and work habits that you create to try and do things always right, you know, and always the same way. But sometimes you work long hours, especially this time of year when it's real hot and the storms are like this. So you're already, by 5 o'clock, you're already super tired from the day anyway, and then the storm rolls through and now you're working all night, and you want to be doing other things, so your mind, it's easy to think you can have your mind on the game the whole time, but the truth is you can't, you know. And so you depend on people to be watching you and help you if you go to make a mistake.
Safety's gotten even more important. Of course, you know, we lost one, and that hurt us, hit everybody really hard, but I'd say right now we're top of the line as far as safety goes with our rules.
And then when we got the phone call that day, it really kind of hit home for us, right? My wife and I we happened to be in Orlando that day when we got the phone call, and it was You know, we all kind of understand that our job is hazardous and these things may happen, but you only know that in your head. In that moment when we looked at each other and she was like, you know, I didn't know. I mean, she said, I understood that it was a hazardous job and that this thing could happen to you, but it didn't hit home until now to feel it in my heart what that could truly be like. And so losing Timmy was hard for us. It was obviously losing a coworker is a hard thing, and though we had lost coworkers in the past due to other accidents, but to lose them to the job was hard. Going back to they're part of us, and so that's hard on us that have been here, that were part of that we're so proud when he graduated. So sure, it's had a major impact on all of our workers, and especially those that knew Timmy and understood just what kind of great guy he was and what kind of good worker he was. It was certainly an awakening experience for all of us, and it definitely changes the way we look at everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Coming through the ranks, I come up through some great people. Marty Pena was probably the best person I worked with as a foreman. He taught you everything you needed to know, made sure you were safe. Well, I think the difference between Ocala and other utilities is Ocala's a big family.
I think the biggest thing is the guys that were ahead of us passed what they knew on to us, and we're trying to do the same. And we've always been pretty tight in Ocala with that, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to other cities, and you see a lot of that in this trade, but Ocala's done a real good job about passing it down one to another.
Mm-hmm.
So the Larry Morgans and Marty Penels and Randy Hickses and Tim Blooms, all those ahead of us, they passed it on to us,
Mm-hmm.
and then we're trying to do the same.
We're all family here. I've talked to a lot of other people, a lot of other companies, and they don't have what we got. You know, on the weekends we're getting together, we're hanging out, we're having a good time, and that's everyone. You know, I mean, we're constantly, everyone's hanging out with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
We got definitely a way tighter bond than any of the other companies. So I mean, I think that helps out a lot, helps the company out. You know.
Every place I've worked, I can honestly say, without a doubt, there is no comparison in between them and the city of Ocala. The group of guys here, it's unreal. The bond and the brotherhood that we all share,
Mm-hmm.
it's like none other. I know no matter what happens, they got my back, and same goes for them. I got theirs no matter what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to know these guys around here more in the past year and a half, 2 years, than I've known people that I've worked with for 10 years. Being a brother means something,
Mm-hmm.
and being a brother's keeper means something around here.
Municipalities have an advantage, I think, because we put more emphasis on the customer, I believe. Duke is an investor-owned. They're going to run what they need to run to just keep the lights on the best they can, but they're not going to overdo it, where sometimes I think we hit it harder than they do. Plus, they got linemen that might have to come from Eustis and go to Spar, an area they're not even familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say we can probably get things on faster than an investor-owned. Seco, they're big on their customers too, but their area is so big.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes their outages take a little bit longer just because of that, you know. I think municipalities, it being a little smaller and more invested in the customer, I believe, because, well, the customer owns
Mm-hmm.
the company.
We look at it like we have owners. We work for our owners, you know. So every day when we're trying to turn somebody's lights back on or do a job for somebody, we try, as a company, we try to say we're doing it for the CEO of the company, Mm-hmm. whoever I'm going to do this job for. And let's face it, big companies like Duke, they don't necessarily have that mindset. There's days they work for the CEO of the company. There's days they may go change out poles, or the CEO of the company's power may be out. And they're going to treat that customer different
Mm-hmm.
than they are me or you. Where when my neighbor's lights go out, he is the owner of the company.
And what's unique to Ocala, and there may be one or two more that are similar, is that we're small enough that we're still family, that we still know quite a bit about each other, enough that we can dislike each other but yet like family. Just because we may not get along day to day, you're still my family, we're still going to take care of you. That's who we are. And so you have that kind of camaraderie and brotherhood amongst each other, and it's just one group, it's one cohesive group.
They don't break your back here like everywhere else I've worked.
Mm-hmm.
They're more apt to work with you than against you. Them other places, you'd take 2 steps forward and they'd come beat you down with a stick, make sure you got back to where they wanted you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I feel that they build you up. They want to see you strive. They want to see you be the best that you can be
Mm-hmm.
here, and I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah.
And I hope all these other guys that's grown up in this system know just how good they've actually got it.
I love my job.
Why would I ever leave? 'Cause I know I got some good friends that live down the street. Got a good